Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Cleary, and I am a program manager here at Magic. And I'm so excited because today I have here with me one of the lovely mentor mentee pairs from Fieldston School. And I'm so excited to chat with them and hear about their magic session. If we could just start off by having you both introduce yourselves. Saskia, would you like to start?
Sure. My name is Saskia. I'm a sophomore student at Fieldston, and this year in Magic, I've been working with Nikita.
And my name is Nikita D, and I'm a junior at Georgia Tech with a major in computer science and concentrations in human-computer interaction and information internetworks. And I had a great time working with Saskia this session.
um, Saskia, can you start us off by telling us about your project and what made you select that to be your focus for your magic session?
Yeah, for sure. So, kind of like I spoke to this a little bit in my presentation, but I had always really been interested in science and reading and writing in the humanities, and like felt like there was really no intersection between the two disciplines. And something that was really important to me that I've been like basically been a reading comprehension tutor the entirety of this year, and an understanding that the issue of reading comprehension extended far beyond just the kids that I was tutoring and was also very much a nationwide sort of issue. I initially wanted a project that really focused heavily in on reading comprehension and literacy rates and then providing recommendations based on that. But then kind of decided to like scale back a little bit and with the help of Nikita, pivot my project to more generally just inspire like a love of like reading and reading recommendations for anybody, especially though elementary school age kids wanting to get interested in reading. And so together we created the quiz that was basically the majority of like our app. And yeah, that was kind of how our project came to be.
So it sounds like you, you came in with some really strong ideas of where you wanted to focus, and then you pivoted your project a bit. And so, was there anything in your research that surprised you?
I would say not necessarily something that like surprised me per se.
Mhm.
But I would say that like as I guess we were sort of like figuring out what we wanted like the project to be, understanding that like what we wanted to do was very multidimensional and was possible, but also understanding that we wanted to output like the best effort with the time frame that we had. And I think that through understanding this, we were able to like get like a result that was different than what we initially anticipated, but also equally important and exciting in its own right, I would say.
Yeah. It's sometimes, I think that has to do with the scientific method of you have a hypothesis of what you think your research will find, but then you end up sometimes you come across something new and exciting that you weren't expecting. So Nikita, can you touch on maybe some things you learned from Saskia?
Yeah, I learned a lot about journalism and about how to explain material. I had some familiarity with MIT App Inventor from my past experiences with Get Magic, but it was
Mhm.
really interesting having to kind of pivot and work with TinyDB, which is something I'd not seen before. And I learned a lot about journalism and honestly about like the literacy rates in America and New York. I didn't realize how much of a problem that was.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's certainly a very important subject matter that, as Saskia touched on a bit ago, just it really impacts everyone across the country. And so I'm sure your research will be very helpful in helping curb that. And Nikita, you did just mention that in your past experience with Get Magic, you have a unique experience in that you were time mentee and now you are a mentor. So, can you touch briefly on what made you want to continue your relationship with magic and become a mentor?
Yeah, I had two very different and good experiences with Get Magic as a mentee. I did the program first during COVID, where I was just looking for like something to fill my time with. It was the summer of 2020. I'd been bored. I hadn't really looked at academics like from March till May. And so I just found Get Magic and I had a very good experience with it that summer and then the following summer. I really liked getting to develop like a connection with someone in the STEM field. And I wanted to give back and I wanted to be on the other side because I realized that I've been learning all this material in college and in the classroom and I hadn't really had a chance to see like the real life impact of it. And I really wanted to like help someone out and to learn from someone else.
Hmm. And I think what's really great is that you are currently a college student yourself. And so you are not so removed from the experience of magic being in high school. And so, Saskia, can you touch on what it was like being mentored by a college student? Did you touch on, colleges you might be interested in, things like that?
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of like our like predominant conversation focused around like our respective classes, particularly when Cam would speed up or like when Nikita would like kind of tell me something interesting about like her classes. I think that was like a lot of like where we were able to relate is because like she is obviously in college, but also was a high school student relatively recently. I think was really able to understand all that like being a high school student meant in addition to embarking on a project. And I think that through like our like respective like ages and also like experiences, we are able to relate, I would say more than maybe like people that like aren't so close to an age or haven't had like similar sort of experiences with like high school. And obviously I haven't experienced college yet, but like kind of like different classes. And so I thought that that was a really valuable experience because we were able to like connect on like this technological front, but then also like on just like a personal sort of like conversational basis.
Hmm. No, that's so true that you're able to connect in ways that are people in similar age groups do. So that's great to hear. At the beginning of our interview, you touched on that you were interested in journalism and also in STEM, and you didn't necessarily know how the two would correlate. Now that you've completed your project, can you speak about the ways in which really any subject matter, whether it's journalism or another area of interest, tie into science and
For
STEM?
sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think that something particularly important to journalism is that a lot of especially investigative journalism, which is like what the field that I am considering going into, relies so heavily on fact and relies like basically it's not up to interpretation. It's like you're basically saying things because they've been stated in documents or studies, or you're making those studies yourself. And I think though this was like a little bit different than that, I really came to understand that so much of the humanities and so much of journalism comes from science and comes from fact and the people that did the research and the people that did certain studies. And that's the reason we have articles about said topics that like people are studying. And so like there's that. But then there's also like the thing of like like for example, like just even doing like something like a quiz that tells you a book you might want to read, like that was based on science and logic and math. And so like kind of seeing like the back end like code or like the like things that we didn't necessarily see as relating as actually being quite inextricably like linked, I think was really interesting.
Hmm. No, it's wonderful to see the two worlds come together and see what you were able to put together through the MIT App Inventor. My last question is, Saskia, let's say you have a peer or a classmate who's interested in joining magic, but they're not quite sure. What would you tell them about your experience?
I think I would tell them that the experience is really all that you make it to be. If there's something that you're interested in and you think there's a way that you can sort of like maybe express that interest or pursue it via technology or like even coding or getting to know coding, I would say 100% go for it. It's such like a special sort of mentorship experience and I learned so much and I think that that was like I think the main message I would communicate is to just go for it because you'll end up learning so much and yeah, I think it was a really valuable process.
Yes, I love that. Just go for it. Great
Yes,
advice. Many areas of life. Well,
for sure.
thank, yeah, thank you both so much for taking the time to sit down and chat with me after your amazing presentation this evening. Both of you should truly, truly be so proud of yourselves. And best of luck in the rest of the school year.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.